What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Carson's IH Garage. Today is an exciting day because we will be installing a steering column mounted tachometer from ClassicScoutParts.com. They sent this to me and asked me to try it out, and I'm here to install it and give my honest opinion. I'm super excited that someone has come up with a nice solution to putting a tachometer into a Scout, as they do not have them from the factory. Well, so let's go ahead and install this. I'll walk you guys through it, and then I'll tell you what I think. So here's the contents of the kit. I have laid everything out here on my hood. Here is the all-important tachometer. This is an apex meter tachometer. It is a backlit tachometer, and it goes up to 6,000 RPM. I like the black finish on it. I like the metal construction. The current aftermarket gauges that were put in there by the previous owner have this plastic body, and they feel so chintzy. I'm like afraid to take the dash apart because I feel like it's gonna break, and I don't want to spend any more money on aftermarket stuff when I'm going back to stock. So this is really nice. I'm happy with the construction. Everything is insulated as far as the spade terminals and stuff like that. Here's the backlight. Looks like it's very easy to change. You got these nice knurled nuts that will bolt on to the mount there. That brings us to the next thing, the mount. I like this mount a lot. It is made out of 3D printed plastic. I believe it's PLA. It might be ABS, which is the type of plastic used by 3D printers. It melts at a very, very high temperature, around 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's very rigid, it's very strong. I don't feel like I'm going to break it. And I know I have 3D printed other stuff in the past on my own 3D printer, and it's held up quite well to exposure in the sun or in a hot car. So I'm very happy with how that is constructed, and it also includes the hardware and nuts used to mount it to the steering column. They also included plenty of wire, all color coded out for your different connections, so it's not all just one color wire. It makes things a little easier when tracing them, going through your dash and into your engine bay. They also include plenty of zip ties and all the terminals that you would need to get everything wired up. So without further ado, let's jump inside and we'll start installing it. So first order of business, this tachometer works on 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, and 8 cylinders, all of which were available in the Scout. In this case, I have the 152 4-cylinder, and I have to set the tachometer to read that. So there's this little cover on the back that I'll pop off, and it's got little switches, and they include a nice instruction booklet within the kit when you buy it, and it tells you which switches to throw on or off. So it'll tell the tachometer how it should read the incoming signal off of this wire here, the middle wire that's marked S for signal. So it'll be very accurate. And that might be another thing too. If you find that your tachometer is reading incorrectly, or it's idling at 800 RPM based on your other equipment, but you see the tachometer reads 1600, that's because it's set up for an 8-cylinder and you might have a 4. So make sure you always check this on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and switch mine, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So it might be difficult to see, but there are 3 switches in there marked 1, 2, 3, and then there's the position for them, up or down. It looks like mine is set for an 8-cylinder right now, and so I'm going to go look at the chart that they give me, and I will compare it to what I need it to read. So here is the Here is the table for it. It looks like I have my 4-cylinder engine, so I need the number 1 switch to be on, and switch 2 and 3 can be off. So all you need to do is get a little screwdriver in there, and you should be able to flip those switches down or up. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that, throw the little cover back on, and we'll move inside the cab, and we'll start to install it. So whenever planning on doing anything electrical to your car, even as simple as just changing a fuse, it's always a good idea to disconnect your battery terminal. Positive or negative, doesn't matter, whichever one's easiest for you. But you just want to cut power to the system, so I like to do the positive cable. Just go ahead and loosen that and put it off to the side, like where it's not going to touch anything. And then you're ready to work on your car and anything electrical like that. In this case, I'll be pulling apart my dash to wire the stuff and route them through there, and I don't want to accidentally have a exposed end of the wire meet a grounded surface when it has positive power going to it, because it'll unnecessarily blow a fuse, and I don't have any spares right now, so that's a safety precaution that I'm willing to take. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull my dash apart, just these 5 screws in front here to pull the gauge cluster, and then I'm going to start to route all my wires into my engine bay after I crimp them on and slide them on there, so I'll keep track of what color wire goes to what terminal and what that terminal does. And then I'm going to start routing everything through, and then I'll show you how to connect it up to the engine. So I got my dash pulled out, and what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to begin routing all the bare wires through there. So I'm going to tie them together in a loom, just in a knot basically, so I could feed it together as a harness, and then from there I can go ahead and bring them to different parts of my engine bay where I need them. Okay, so the first thing I plan to do here is take my red wire. This is going to be my positive wire, so positive power to the tack. I'm going to run that through here, and then there's a channel for wires right in there. Don't mind the rust holes. And that is right next to my fuse block inside the engine bay, and I'm going to put this on a fuse because I don't want any wires to melt or start a fire. And it's always a good idea whenever you're running 12 volts to have it fused. So I'm going to go ahead and run that in there, and I'll meet you guys when I get it to the fuse block. I'll show you how to crimp on the connection and then pick an amperage of fuse. So over in the front of the engine bay here, I have my red wire down there. I'm just going to pull that through. Perfect. And that's long enough. And then I have a few open spots on my fuse block here. I'm going to go for a 10 amp fuse, just a low voltage, and I'm going to just pop it in right there. So I recommend getting yourself a pair of these nice wire strippers. Pick this up at my local hardware store, just Ace Hardware, and they're cheap enough to where you buy them and you only need to buy one pair. They never really wear out unless of course you break them. I've seen people try to crimp on those terminals with a pair of pliers or wire cutters even, and they end up damaging them, and they never turns out right, and you never get a good solid connection out of it. So I recommend picking these up. They're cheap enough and they're good to have. And I like the full scale here where it tells you your gauge of wire, so you could just go ahead and, if you know your gauge, you could just put it right in that slot, crimp down on it, and strip it. So I'm going to strip the end, and I'm going to grab a spade style terminal. It's that one right there, and I'm just going to plug that in. You want to make sure that you strip it and you only take away the rubber, not any or many of the strands if you're using stranded copper wire, because you won't get a good bite on it when you crimp down on it in the connection with the tool. And then after you get it crimped, you want to leave yourself about anywhere from like 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. That way, then when you slide it in and you crimp down on it, you can get a good bite no matter where you crimp down on it. So I'm going to grab one of these terminals out of the bag. This is a very nice package they included here. It came with the screws, the prong style terminals, the ones with the hole, and then the loop, I don't know what you call them, and then the spades. And I'll be using the spade. So all I did was I slid in the wire until I could start to see the top of the wire or the strands inside the terminal there when they started peeking out, and then I held it and I used the prong of the crimper. So I used the prong instead of the rounded part, and I put that facing up so it smashes down on it, because they seem to just crush better that way, seeing as the metal it's cut on the top, like the seam for it when they put these together from the factory, that it crushes better on top versus if you flipped it around and crushed it from the bottom. And if you give it a nice tug, it doesn't pop off, so that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this into my fuse block facing down. I just like to do it that way because it looks cleaner. There we go. It's fully on there. And now I'm going to move in and start routing my other wires. So with red taken care of, I'm not going to move on to yellow. Yellow is going to be my signal wire. I just chose this because it's bright, and to me, like a flashing yellow signal is just that. It's like a signal. You know, it's bright, it's important, so that'll be my signal to my tachometer. So I'm going to do the same thing, route it through the dash. I'm only going to put it through a different hole so it comes out to where I actually have my coil wires routed off of my ignition switch. So it'll lie in that same harness there. I'll make sure I slide it in and I'll tape it up, and I'll crimp on the hole style. I forget what those are called, and then I'll just screw that right on to the negative side of the coil. Make sure it's negative or else it won't read correctly. Same as before, route it, strip it, twist it, crimp on the connector. In this case I'll be using the open connector there, where I could throw it over the stud of my negative terminal. Oh no, this is my negative terminal, never mind. And then I'll make sure I screw that down. So there's my signal wire running through the same hole where all the other wires run through. I got my little loom thing on there, and then I routed my wire through here. I put it on top, and then I ran the negative wire of the coil around it just to clean it up a little bit so there's not so many wires in front. I'm a little adamant about my wire routing because I want it to look really good when it's sitting there at a car show or something like that. I don't like messy wires. I want to be able to see the engine and not have to look past all these wires. So, like I was saying before, got it routed into the cab, and it's ready to be hooked up to the tachometer. Okay, so the next wire I'm going to be doing is my negative wire. Now this supplies negative power to the tachometer itself, because the way tachometers work is they have the signal wire coming from the negative terminal on the coil, but they also have positive and negative power going to them. So it powers the tachometer, and what tachometers measure is the revolutions per interrupt of it. So the negative wire on your distributor going to your negative wire in your coil is the interrupt of negative ground, and that's what tachometers measure, and that's how it displays your RPM. That's all it's measuring. It's a pretty cool system. There's also ones that this tachometer will also run off of alternator power, but that is only available on 6-cylinder engines, I believe, and IHs. It was only ever negative power. Could you put a tachometer in, like I am doing? So I'm going to run this black wire down to where I have it grounded to the body. That's just under my dash there. I'm going to crimp on the connector, screw that in. It's a little hard to show because it's kind of tucked up under there. And then from there, we're going to do the one final install on the dimmer switch for the backlighting of the tachometer, because I like when you pull the light switch out once, it'll light up all the gauges on the dash. Stock ones were like that too, and the speedometer lights up nicely. It's kind of a cool look to it. Gives you that old car feel, really. So black wire and then white wire for the backlight, and I'll show you guys that one. Okay, with my black wire routed now, I'm going to finally move on to the white wire. And here's where things get kind of fun, I guess, fun for me. It's hooking up the backlight. So on Scouts, this is Scout 800, 65 Scout 800. And I'm sure this is the same for many years after this. But if you pull the switch out once, just like that, just that, it lights up the dash. These indicators here, it just, lightly gives everything a backlighting so you can see it at night. Pull it out again and you get your headlights, and then of course the dimmer switch is on the floor where you click between high and low. So on the switch, I had this out previously because I had to do a little fix to it, but the way it works is you have different terminals that light up at different times when you pull on this. Some are for the headlights, so they only come on the second click, and then some are for the backlighting of the gauges, the tail lights, parking lights and stuff like that when you pull it out once. So I'm going to hook up my multimeter. I'm going to put power back to the car, hook up my multimeter, and see when I pull this out which ones are drawing 12 volts, and when I push it back in, which one will cut off the power. And I'm thinking I already know which one it is based on the way it's routed and how I had the switch apart before, and I had figured it out. But it's always good to double check when things are under power. So the goal is to find a terminal that has no power when the switch is in, but when you pull it out, it lights up just like the gauges do. So no power in, but power when you pull it out once, and only once. So I'm gonna go grab the multimeter and I'm gonna show you guys how to check that. Okay, so I got my multimeter here. I'm gonna flip it onto the volt setting because all we wanna see is around 12 volts. I think my battery is going a little dead, even though it's brand new. I bought a nice Interstate battery over the weekend. But here, get you guys in there, is my dimmer switch. And back there, let me see if I can illuminate it for you guys. But back there is an open terminal that I had previously marked with the white marker when I had it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put my little prong on that. Try to get it in the little hole that they have, just so it'll hold it there. There we go. And with that staying still, let me see, I'm hooking it to my ground, which is under here. And I'm seeing no power. And that's with the switch off. So now if I switch it on and hook it to ground, we see 12.4 volts, which is perfect. That is the voltage of my battery. So we know that when the dash lights come on like that, there's off, there's on, and all the gauges light up, even though you can't see it with the lighting I have right now, that I'm getting 12 volts to that spade terminal. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my white wire, which is going to be my backlighting wire, which is what will light up the gauge. I'm going to crimp that. I showed you guys how to do that before. I'm going to plug it in there, and then I'm just going to run it out here. And then finally, I'll route the wires one final time, button them up with some zip ties so I know it's the tachometer loom. Route them through here, and then I'll install the tachometer. I'll hang it on the steering column because it is a steering column mount, and then I will see how long my wires are, how much I need to cut them down, and then I'll crimp those, put terminals on them, and then we'll see how it is, and then we'll give it a shot, see how it works. So now I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my positive terminal since I'm going to be doing more electric and putting my hands inside the dash. Alright, so that's all the wires done coming from my positive, negative, signal, and backlighting. Now it's time to wire it into the tachometer. I threw a nice zip tie around these wires, like I said, to just keep them there. Nothing's under tension, nothing's being pulled on, which is really crucial to make sure your connections don't come apart or just pop off and then have to take it apart later. So I have everything here. I'm going to put my dash back together, and I believe I can run them out of this cutout here if I move this little rubber escutcheon back. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you to plug everything into the tachometer, mount it up how you want it, and we'll take a look and see how it is. So I got all the wires through the dash. They fit nicely. I didn't feel like I was crimping anything off or crushing anything. I thought they went through really nicely. And then I was able to slide that rubber escutcheon there, it's a fun word, right over it, so it kind of disguises it a little bit. And all those wires really have to do is come up this far, and I'll hit them with a zip tie and clean them up, maybe wrap them in a little bit of black electrical tape to make it look a little sleeker. But other than that, it looks pretty good aesthetic wise. I'd say it looks very good even if in restoration, if you do like I said, or even if you kind of twist the wires up and just bring it up there, it kind of just looks natural and normal, which is very nice. It's not a very invasive kit. You don't have to drill any holes or cut any holes in your dash. So I went ahead and cut the wires coming out of my dash. I looked to see where the tachometer would actually mount and saw how close it was, and I'm very happy with it. You're not going to actually have the wires coming up the column, you know, these bright colored wires. It's not really going to be an eyesore. I'm still going to go ahead and wrap these in a little bit of electrical tape, I think, just to clean it up. but I'm quite happy with it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and crimp spade terminals on all my connections because that's what it needs. We have our backlighting, our signal, our negative, and our positive wires coming through here, and then we can go ahead and plug those into the tachometer. And once we're happy with that, we could reach up under the dash and then pull those wires back or just tuck them back in like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and crimp them on, strip them, crimp them, and then I'll plug in my tack and we'll get it all mounted to the steering column and see how it looks. Alright, I got all my terminals crimped on there. They're nice and tight. And I actually moved back the little escutcheon there so I could tuck these in there when I am ready to. So I'm going to grab my tack. I'm going to plug everything into it, and then I'll go ahead and mount it on the column. So I got the tack all mounted up. It's a split style where, you know, one half comes apart and one half has the tack on it. So all I did was connect the wires while it was off. I remembered what colors I used for what, matched them up, and then I put the half on, and then I screwed the other half on, and from there I was able to rotate it and twist it like that. But this is very rigid. It doesn't have any movement. I'm actually moving the whole steering column as well as the whole car, and it's very nice. I like be able to see it like above my steering column, like from my height here. Like this is about my height. If I'm having it straight and I sit up even a little bit more, I could see perfectly here. It doesn't interfere with the wiper switch at all. I could still rotate that just fine. And then I could see my RPM, and for me it's actually easier to read than my speedometer, which that sounds kind of funny. But like the way I would have to look down, it's more comfortable for my eyes to just like hone in on the speedometer. I mean the tack rather than the speedometer. So I could say it's a very nice unit. I like it a lot. The wires are nice and tucked back there. I don't have any electrical tape on me at the moment. I'll have to buy some, but that's just a little thing. It doesn't interfere with the blinker at all. That still moves up and down nice with room to spare. I have it nice and mated up against here, and I have everything just snugged down because that's all you need to do, and it won't move and it won't come loose and everything like that. So now the ultimate test, I'm going to plug everything, I'm going to plug the battery back in, getting power to everything. Hopefully you don't hear any pops, see any sparks, or make any white smoke appear. And we'll see if the backlighting works. I'll turn off the light behind me and we'll see the whole gauge light up like Christmas. Hopefully. Okay, brace yourselves everybody. Okay, nothing yet. So, looks like everything's good. Everything lights up just like that. And then if I pull them again to turn on the headlights, it dims a little bit because it's drawing on the battery, but the tack still stays lit. So, when it's a nice day out, not today, hopefully in a few days, I'll roll it out and I'll start it up and I'll see how it works. Alright guys, it's been a couple days since I put the tack in. I finally caught a nice day after work, so let's fire it up. We'll see how she works. Can't rev it up because I don't want to make too much noise, but we can still see. So, neutral, clutch, 3, and hey, there we go. Idle's at about 900 RPM. And we'll give it a little bit. Well, there you go. Well, neat stuff, guys. I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's wrap up this video. So after living with this tachometer for about a week, I could say I'm fully in love with their innovative design. It allows you to easily loosen the formatting screws and shift it to any position you find comfortable to view while driving. It is also easy to take it off and remove when you need to do work behind your dash, working on your gauges and speedometer, etc. The body of the mount is made out of 3D printed plastic, which makes it very rigid and durable, and also makes it look very clean and sleek. If the finish is not desired, however, you could easily sand it down, primer it, and paint it to match any color in your Scout if you just finish a nice restoration. Which brings me to my second point. This mount will not scratch or mar your steering column, so that makes it 100 times better than having either zip ties or hose clamps securing a tachometer, which would otherwise be loose and kind of ugly to look at. This tachometer has improved my driving experience greatly, as it allows me to view my engine's vitals as well as learn what RPM my engine and transmission likes to shift at, which makes it a very smooth ride and very easy on my engine and trans. I would recommend this kit to anybody looking for a permanent solution to putting a tachometer in their Scout. If you have looked and come up with no results, then look no further than this kit from ClassicScoutParts.com. I will include a link in the description to their website, where I urge you to sign up for their email newsletter, where you can get updates and information when new products like this come out. This product is currently in beta, and the nice people at ClassicScoutParts.com asked me if I would try it and tell them what I think. And I could tell them that I would most definitely recommend this to somebody looking for a solution, as it is non-invasive, very clean and sleek looking, as well as a very nice quality gauge that doesn't hesitate when you step on the gas pedal like most cheap gauges might do. So if you'd like to get one for yourself, go ahead and sign up for their newsletter, and you can get updates when products like this arrive. For now, that'll be all, and stay tuned for a new upcoming project series. Ooh, exciting. Alright, be safe everybody, take care.